Hey guys, this is my introduction to my introduction. My introduction has a lot of background noise. Hopefully you can still hear me alright. That does stop, and it goes into pictures and videos of where I narrate over that. So I hope you enjoy, and hope you find this useful. So thanks for watching, and enjoy.
Hey guys, Toxic here. Just making this video, like a little tutorial on how I make my display boards. Obviously you've seen this one here. You haven't seen this one though. This is a new one I made today. Started about 3 hours ago. Again, they think about 3 hours each. Probably add on an hour for each additional board that you're going to do. Because once you've got it all going, you kind of get in the rhythm. As you can see, this one's slightly a different color, so I would recommend that if you are planning on doing multiple boards, do them all at the same time. I apologize for the traffic. Just so you can get the color the same. Where I did this one, about a month ago, and this one just today. So in this following, I guess it's kind of more like a presentation than a video, because it's going to be a mixture of just audio, pictures, and video. As I made this board. So I just went through and kind of did some steps on how I do it. A lot of the things that they're not going to apply exactly to the boards that you make, because again, this is to the kind of dirty wasteland kind of look that I'm going for, kind of the muddy look. Whereas you might be wanting to do a beach or snow, but the principles will be the same. So I hope you enjoy the tutorial. And I hope you learn something from it. Feel free to send me messages on the Dice Troop, on my regular blog, or even my email. Don't forget to check out Toxic Painting if you want to even get some terrain commissioned or an army commissioned. As you can see, my Space Wolf here, my painting competition winning Space Wolf army. Thought I'd mention that. But so that's it. So I hope you enjoy the presentation.
Okay, let's get this started. First off, I'd like to apologize about the traffic. Not much I can do about that at the moment. So the first couple pictures we have here are some of the materials that I'm using. It's pink insulation foam, some card foam, Cork Board, popsicle sticks, Sharpie, box cutter knife. Obviously we have paint as well, and hot glue and stuff like that, but you'll see that later on. This stuff's pretty cheap. A lot of the stuff I picked up at a dollar store, so right now with 2 boards I've only spent less than $50, and I've still got a lot left over. So first, what you want to do is just kind of design your board with a Sharpie, mark down where you want things to go. Obviously you're going to paint over it, so if you make mistakes, that's completely fine. As you can see, first off I started with the hill. I went to go for a corner one. Then I decided, I'm just gonna go all the way down the flank with the mountain there. And then I drew a little triangle to represent where I wanted the building. When I kind of looked back on that, I really wish I had to turn the building around the other side, as it is a bit more practical for a display board and actually a gaming sense. But I didn't really think of it at the time, and I only thought of it when I was actually done and painted. So once you've done that, I started with the hills. So the pink insulation foam, you can pick it up pretty cheap at Home Depot. You just start by laying that down, kind of get a sense of where you want your hill to be, and just cut it back until you're really happy with where your hill is. I kind of went inside my line, so the hill wasn't as big as I originally planned it to be. And that also happens with the next step as well, because once you've got your hill set, as you can see I went another level. Just thought I'd make it look a bit more appealing. And then once you've done that, it's really about cutting back the sides and making it look a little bit more like a hill than just big chunks of foam. I kind of went with more of the Games Workshop kind of design to it, where it's got like the really you can really see where the edges are, and it's not so smooth. I prefer that design. If you wanted to, you could make it a bit more smooth, like a hill, rather than just little cliffs. The key here is just to be really gentle with your slices so it comes out nice and smooth. I have a video coming up just showing you how I do it, because if you do it a little bit too forceful, it will tear instead of slice. It looks easy, but it does require a little bit of practice, so I would recommend just testing it out again before you start working on your mountain that you're going to be using on your board. So the video is coming up now, and it shows me just slicing through to make those edges. And again, I'm going pretty quickly, but you really want to just do it gently so you don't get tears. I have a little bit of tears, which I didn't really worry about. Adds a little bit of texture, but you don't want too many, because then you know you can tell that that's what it is, a tear. The second video is me making like the little divots, kind of just to mix it up a little bit. And again, it's all just about nice gentle cuts, nice clean cuts, making nice smooth edges. You know, you could texture later on if you really want to, with sand and dirt and stuff like that. So that's how you do the hills, more or less. This was my favorite part of the build, was the building that we're making here. You get the cork board, and I just cut the corner out of that to make the base of the building. And then once I had that cut, I kind of just picked the sides a little bit to make it look a little rough. Otherwise, it looks a little bit clean. A lot of people probably don't want to glue their buildings down to the boards. I do. There's a video of me showing just breaking it up. Yeah, this terrain is not modular. It's set one way, and I think that's fine. I've made terrain modular and set, and it just depends how I feel like making it. And then I just got the pink foam, insulation foam, to make the walls. It's a bit thick, but I really like the thick walls with the smaller card foam as the floors. And then you just like you would with the hills, really, but you shape it into a broken wall. We've got a video coming up of me slicing down through that wall. Again, I'm not gluing this as I go. I got everything ready before I glued it, so that includes the floors. Everything you see now is not actually glued together. So again, just nice and gently slicing it. You're making it look rough but smooth at the same time. I think that's kind of the style that I was going for, and I think I pulled that off pretty well. I think I actually changed the cork board from when you first saw it, because it was a little bit too small. Like I had some leftovers. Next, once I had the walls done, it was onto making the planks of wood on the floor. Again, you wouldn't have to do this. I like to do that to add a little bit more detail. I think it adds a lot more character to the building. As you can see, I kind of drew out where the walls would be, so nothing was in the way when I did want to glue everything together. So these are just popsicle sticks. I just broke them. Well, actually, we would bite them because you could get a little bit more detail when you break them. You know, probably not the best way to do it, but that's how I did it. We have a video coming up on me gluing it down to the board. Again, it's all simple stuff, just a hot glue gun. The hot glue gun, the glue dries really quickly, so you have to be fast, because you don't want to go to glue it down and the glue's already dry, because you could get some troubles there. So on the second floor, I made this with the card foam, or the poster board, or whatever it's called. I just took the corner, stuck it straight in there, and just drew across where I wanted it, and just cut that with the box cutter, and broke that off, and glued that on. Again, this is all simple stuff. You know, me explaining is probably not going to add much. You're probably going to learn more just from seeing the techniques that I'm using, and just pictures of how it all went together. I assume that's probably going to be the easiest way. So I just made sure that fits in, and then I put some glue on the sides and just stuck that in. But I wanted to add a bit more detail, so I added a couple of braces. So I just got the corners of the card foam and just cut those off, and you know, they're a perfect 90-degree angle there, and I just glued them down like you can see in the picture, and then with the knife I just kind of cut that equal with the floor. Yeah, and simple stuff, but you know, the small things add a lot of detail when you're playing the game, and when people are looking at your board. They may not seem like much, but you know, it's the small details that really do count in the at the end of the day. This is probably the thing that took the most time, was this building, because of all the detail in it. But even then, you know, was 3 hours when it comes to making a terrain board. The next video we have is just me putting down the wood slats. Again, I just dry fit them first to make sure I have enough, kind of get them into a position that I like. I wanted to have a couple of them overhanging, so it was like they just broke, and yeah, they're all odd. You know, none of them. It's not meant to look clean, obviously. This is actually the first time doing a building this detailed, and I'm really happy with how it came out. A lot of the time, I get ideas from seeing things, playing on boards, and just stuff in my head, and then I'll just get what I think I need to make them, and just go for it. There's not much planning involved with it. It's really, I really just go with how I know how to make things. And then, as you can see, that's a finished building there. Again, I'd like it to be facing the other way, but there's not much I can do once it's glued down. That the cork board's very, very weak, so if I tried to pull it up, it would have just ripped out the bottom, and it wasn't worth it. So following this, following these pictures, I have the finished board, the build of the board done, without without painting and texture. So we'll get into that soon. But I'll show you what it looks like when it's all assembled. And then this one of me with that pose in it, that pose that everyone knows. Oh, there you go. So now we'll get into texturing the board and painting the board. And again, we're only at about probably took about 2 hours, hour and a half to get to this stage. It really doesn't take that long. Okay, so now we get into the texturing of the board, and this is just some white glue or PVA glue, wood glue, whatever you want to call it, with some kind of like sand stones that I just picked up off the ground. There's a picture of them later on, but I just mix them in with some glue, and then just brush that directly onto the board. Alternatively, what you could do is mix it with paint, and that way this step is kind of in one with the painting of the board. I prefer to go with the glue because it gives it that the extra protection of keeping those stones and sand and grit just on the board. Plus, I also spray painted half my board, and you can't mix sand into spray paint, obviously. So yeah, the key thing here is to get a good coverage on the board and just get the sand where you want it to go. So the sand and dirt that I found, we found it near a lake in the car park. Again, you can really just pick this up anywhere on the side of the road, in a garden, on your driveway, wherever you find some dirt that suits for you. And we've got another video of me finishing up the texture and just what it looks like with all the glue over the board. We got really lucky. It was a really hot day that day, as you can see later on, or maybe even now. I actually unbuttoned my shirt because it got very hot. So after that, the next step would be to just hand paint the foam black, because if you use spray paint on foam, it will bubble and melt. Alternatively, you could just hand paint the whole board, which is really what I should have done, but I already brought the spray paint. Since half my board was foam, you see the picture coming up next, and it would take me about 5 minutes to just paint the rest black, but I whipped out the spray can anyway because I'd already brought it. But yeah, foam will bubble, so do make sure to paint that, and it'll even bubble even if you paint it. It's meant to make a seal so that it won't bubble if it gets hit by the spray paint, but my building did end up bubbling a little bit, but a little touch up is fine, and the bubbling effect actually doesn't turn out too badly. It does give it that texture of damage. The spray paint I'm using is just a cheap black paint. It's not even a primer. I can pick that up at Walmart for a couple bucks. So there's the board. That's all blacked out and ready for painting. Make sure it's dry. The sand and grit and stones, you can kind of see them spread out over the board, and that should be pretty solid now. On my other board I've only lost one piece, and that's when I took it to a tournament, and it was, people were walking around and touching it, but if you take care of it, those pieces shouldn't fall off. So I've picked brown. I'm not going to talk too much about the colors because, again, that's a personal choice. You could be making a snow planet, and obviously you're not going to be using brown. I go for kind of a dry brushing technique, although it's fairly heavy, so it's not really a dry brush. It's more of, load your brush up, kind of clean it out a little bit, and then just lightly brush on until you get that effect that you want. I really don't mind having a little black showing through, because the key that I find to painting the terrain is just getting a build-up of different colors, because things aren't one solid color. Things are a mixture of different colors. And I think that really shows through when you just start mixing white. That's what I do. I start with the brown, and then once I got a nice layer, I'd mix some white into that, and then just brush over another layer, and then add a little bit more white, brush over another layer, until I was happy. I did make a mistake that I should have done the grey first. As you see in this video, the grey was going all over the brown, so I did have to fix that up. Again, like with anything, the key to the grey was get a nice grey down, and then just add white, because stone, more than anything, is a mixture of greys and whites, really, and you can see that when this is finished, how well that stone does show up. I chose to paint the building the stone color as well. I like to think that it's an old building from civilization past, where they just made it out of the stone slabs with some wooden boards, and I think that came across in what I accomplished. Again, that picture there is without the touch-ups on the brown, so there's a little bit of over painting. You don't have to be the neatest when it comes to painting terrain, because you don't want your terrain to be too detailed, because then it kind of takes away from your models. And if you're not the best painter and you have this, it's pretty easy to paint terrain and make it look good. You don't want the terrain, making the models look bad, or you want the models to be the key feature here, especially if it's a display board. So you want to be clean, but you don't want to go into too much detail. Another video here of just painting techniques and me painting the boards. As you can see, I hit the stone a few times, so I fix that up the best that I can, but I'm not too worried. Again, personal preference, really. There's people out there that'll really care about whether they make a mistake, but as long as I fixed it up the best that I could. Again, just making a different paint color for the wood to give it a bit more texture in the color, and then I just started doing that to the brown, as you can see in the next video here. And this is basically done. That's about 4 layers of paint, just adding white to the brown. So I bought about 3 paints from Walmart. They're about 50 cents each, so that's about $1.50 on paint, not including the spray can. So it's not bad there. As you can see, my other board, that's what they look like together. There's a few finished pictures of the building. Actually, I've got a couple pictures in here because that one isn't the best. But that is definitely my favorite part of the build, was that building, and I think the planks came out really nicely. I like how messy and broken they look. Again, a lot of these aren't going to apply if you're going to be doing a different terrain. Snow terrain, everything like that, but the principles and the techniques will remain. Even if you're doing snow terrain, you'll start with maybe like a bluish color for like an icy board, and then you'll kind of add white to it and build up a texture, or you'd go from grey to white if you wanted more of a snow rather than ice. To finish it off, I did add grass tufts. That's a Games Workshop product. I just super glued them down. A lot of people just use the regular static grass. I don't really like it. I think it looks a bit flat. I do like the grass tufts. They're a bit more expensive, and you do feel like you're wasting them a little bit when you're putting them on the board, but I really think they speak for themselves when you see them on the board. I really don't like the look of just big flat patches of static grass. I do prefer this, definitely. And there's just a few pictures of with models on the board, and because at this stage we're done. I really hope that helped you out. It's very easy to do. It's very cheap. So go for it. If you have any questions, send them to the Dice Troupe or email me at toxicperiodpainting@gmail.com, and I can help you out. If you want to set up a commission, there's Toxic Painting on Facebook. Thanks for watching, and have a good one.